"Don't look at me," she whispered, bruised and barefoot, until the rancher laid down his gun. The sun was low in the sky, casting long golden shadows across the dry fields of the ranch. Dust swirled lazily in the warm breeze, and the sound of birds settling for the night filled the air. Tom, the rancher, was walking along the edge of his property, inspecting the fences and making sure nothing had gone wrong with the cattle. He had lived here all his life, and the land was as familiar to him as his own hands. The quiet of the late afternoon had always been his favorite time, a time when the world seemed to pause, just enough for him to breathe. But today, the calm was broken. A soft, shaky voice carried through the wind, almost too quiet to hear. Don't look at me!" Tom froze. The voice was fragile and fearful, like glass about to shatter. His eyes scanned the horizon, and then he saw her. A young woman crouched near the fence, her clothes torn and dusty, her bare feet stained with dirt and blood. She looked small and frightened, her body trembling slightly. She was holding herself as if trying to disappear into the earth itself. Her eyes, wide with fear, darted toward him and then quickly away. Tom's first instinct was to reach for his gun, a reflex born from years of dealing with wild animals and unpredictable visitors. But something in her expression stopped him. She wasn't dangerous. She was scared, hurt, and completely alone. He could see the bruises on her arms and legs, the redness around her eyes, the way her body curled in on itself as though the world itself were pressing down on her. He lowered his hand slowly. "Hey," he said gently, keeping his voice calm and steady. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." "Pass." She flinched at the sound of his voice, shrinking back even further. "Don't," first. "Don't look at me!" she whispered again, her voice barely audible. Tom could hear the desperation in it, the fear that anyone seeing her might mean danger. He took another step forward, careful not to scare her. "I won't. I promise." "Dear, you're safe here," he said. He crouched down to make himself smaller, less threatening. "I'm Tom. I live here on this ranch." "What's your name?" She didn't answer. Instead, she shook her head slightly, pressing her hands against her face. Her fingers were trembling, and the way she pressed them to her cheeks seemed like a silent plea to vanish, to become invisible. Tom's heart tightened. He had never seen anyone so clearly broken yet so fragile at the same time. He understood that fear like this didn't just come from a random scare. This was deep, something that had been building for a long time. He could see it in the way she refused to make eye contact, the way her body flinched at every sound. "Breath. Look," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you. You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to. I just want to help you." She seemed to hesitate, as if weighing whether to trust him.
After a long moment, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't stay here."
Psst. I can't let him find me." Who's looking for you?" She shook her head, her hair falling in front of her face like a curtain.
"No, please, don't make me say it."
Tom nodded slowly. "Okay. You don't have to say anything. Just come with me. I have food, water, a place you can rest." "You don't have to go back out there alone." For a moment, she seemed to consider it, and then slowly, Cautiously, she rose to her feet. Her movements were stiff, each step careful and deliberate. The bruises on her legs were clearly painful, and her bare feet left small, dark marks on the dusty ground. Tom offered his hand, not to grab her, but as a sign of safety. After a long pause, she took it, her fingers cold and trembling against his. He led her toward the ranch house, speaking softly the whole way. "You're safe now. No one can touch you here. I promise." Breath. The house was modest but warm. Inside, the smell of wood and the faint scent of food made the space feel like a refuge. Brett. Tom guided her to a chair near the fireplace. "Sit here. I'll get you some water and a blanket," he said. She sank into the chair, her body folding in on itself. Tom went to the kitchen and returned with a glass of water. "Here," he said, setting it down in front of her. Drink. You must be so thirsty." Right. She took the glass with trembling hands, her eyes never leaving the floor. She sipped the water slowly, as if it were a lifeline, and then set it down carefully. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready for," Tom said again. "I just want you to know that you're not alone." She finally looked up, her eyes meeting his for a brief moment. They were full of pain, but also a glimmer of something else. Trust. Or maybe hope. It was hard to tell, but it was there. I can't stay," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "You don't have to decide anything right now," Tom said gently. "Just rest. Eat something. Then we'll figure out the next step together."
She nodded slightly, her body sagging in exhaustion. Tom could see the weight of whatever she had been carrying pressing down on her, and he felt a deep compassion for her.
He had helped people in trouble before, but never anyone who seemed so completely broken, yet so full of life still. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Tom went outside to check the fences again. He kept one eye on the young woman through the window. She was curled in a blanket, her breathing slow and uneven. The silence of the evening settled around them, but it was no longer the tense silence of fear. It was quiet, but safe.
Tom thought about how she must have gotten here.
The bruises, the torn clothes, the fear in her eyes. It all told a story of someone who had been running for a long time. He didn't press her for details. Some things he knew had to come in their own time. All he could do now was make sure she was safe, that she had food, water, warmth, and the reassurance that someone cared. Night fell completely, and the stars began to shine above the ranch. Tom lit a small lamp in the kitchen, the soft glow filling the room with warmth. He sat nearby, not too close to make her uncomfortable, but close enough so she would know he was there. She didn't speak again, but he could see her eyelids growing heavy, her body finally allowing itself to relax just a little. Passed. And for the first time in what must have been a long while, she slept. Tom watched over her, his mind racing with questions and concerns. Who was she running from? What had happened to her? How could he help? But even with all the uncertainty, one thing was clear. She was safe now, at least for tonight. And in that quiet, dusty ranch house, under the wide-open sky and the watchful eyes of the stars, a fragile sense of trust began to take root. She was broken, yes, but she was still standing. And Tom knew that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, a warm blanket, a glass of water, a calm voice, could make the first step toward healing. As the night deepened, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faint, hopeful promise of tomorrow. Tom didn't know what the future would hold for her, but he did know one thing: she wasn't alone anymore. And for someone who had run so long, who had been so afraid, that was the first, most important step toward safety and perhaps eventually toward hope. The next morning, The sun rose slowly over the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. The ranch was quiet, alive only with the soft sounds of birds and the distant lowing of cattle. Elena had slept through the night, her body curled beneath the thick blanket that Tom had left beside the fireplace. Her breathing was even, and for the first time since she had arrived, there was a sense of calm about her. Tom moved quietly around the kitchen, preparing breakfast. He didn't want to startle her. He knew she needed time to adjust, time to feel that she was safe here. He set a small plate of eggs and toast on the table, along with a glass of milk. Then he waited, keeping his distance, not wanting to rush her. After a while, Elena stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light that filtered through the window. But there was also a small spark in her eyes, the faintest sign that she might be ready to face the day. She noticed the food on the table and hesitated, unsure if she was allowed to eat. Tom smiled gently. Good morning. I made breakfast. You should eat something.
You've been through a lot, and your body needs it. Elena nodded slightly, her hands fidgeting in her lap.
She moved toward the table slowly, her bare feet making soft sounds against the wooden floor. She sat down carefully, as if afraid of making any sudden movements. The bruises on her arms and legs were still visible, and Tom felt a pang of concern. He wished he could take away all the pain she carried, but he knew that healing was a slow process. They ate in silence at first, the quiet only broken by the soft clinking of utensils. Tom kept his eyes gentle, making sure not to overwhelm her. He wanted her to know that she was in control, that she didn't have to share anything she wasn't ready to. Finally, Elena spoke, her voice barely above a whisper.
I don't know how I got here. I just ran.
Tom nodded slowly. That's okay.
You don't have to explain right now. Just know that you're safe.
No one can hurt you here. She looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously.
I don't want him to find me. Breaths. I don't want anyone to find me. Tom understood immediately. Fear like that wasn't something you could just shake off. It clung to you, shaping your every thought and movement. I understand, he said softly, and you won't have to face it alone.
I'll make sure you're safe. For a while, they continued eating in silence.
Tom noticed the way Elena flinched at small noises outside, the way her eyes darted to the windows as if expecting danger at any moment. He didn't interrupt her, but he kept himself visible, a calm presence she could rely on. After breakfast, Tom suggested she rest again while he took care of chores around the ranch. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, she whispered.
He led her to a small room near the back of the house.
It was simple, with a single bed, a dresser, and a small window that looked out over the fields. You can rest here, he said.
I'll be outside if you need anything. And remember, you don't have to do anything you're not ready for.
Elena nodded again and lay down on the bed. Tom watched her for a moment, then stepped outside to check on the horses. The ranch was alive with the sounds of the morning, the rustling of leaves in the wind, the soft neighs and whinnies of the horses, and the occasional bark of a distant dog. Yet there was also a tension in the air, a quiet reminder that danger could still be near. Tom's mind wandered back to Elena. He didn't know exactly what she had been running from, but he could see the marks on her body, the fear in her eyes. Whatever it was, it had left a deep impression on her. He had to be patient, gentle, and careful, because trust could not be rushed. As the day passed, Tom went about his chores, occasionally glancing toward the house to make sure she was all right. He noticed her standing by the window at times, watching the fields, her body tense, She seemed to be trying to take in her surroundings to assess whether the ranch was truly safe. By late afternoon, the sun was warm on the fields, and Tom suggested they go outside together. It might be good to get some fresh air, he said gently. But you don't have to. But I thought it could help. Elena hesitated, then nodded. She put on a worn jacket Tom had offered her and followed him outside. The ground was dry beneath her bare feet, and she walked carefully, as if afraid of every step. Tom stayed close, but didn't reach out unless she seemed to need support. They walked along the edge of the property, past the grazing cattle and the tall, dry grass. Tom pointed out small things, a bird nesting in a tree, a rabbit darting through the field, and spoke softly about the routines of the ranch. Elena listened, her eyes wide, taking in every detail. She didn't speak much, but her presence alone was a sign that she was beginning to feel some semblance of safety. After a while, they reached the old barn. The doors were open, and the smell of hay filled the air. Tom showed her the inside, pointing out the stalls where the horses stayed, the tools used to care for them. Elena's curiosity seemed to grow, and for the first time she asked a question. Do the horses ever run away? She asked softly. Breaths. Tom smiled. Sometimes they try, yes, but they always come back if you treat them well. They trust the people who care for them. It's the same with people, really. Trust takes time, but once it's there, it's strong. Elena nodded slowly, as if the idea of trust was something she hadn't allowed herself to believe in for a long time. Tom didn't push her to say more. Grasp. He knew that even small steps like this were important. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, a soft wind blew across the fields. Elena's eyes wandered to the horizon, and she seemed lost in thought. Tom gave her space, walking a few steps behind her, keeping watch. He noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder as if expecting something to appear. When they returned to the house, Tom suggested she help him with some small chores, something simple that didn't require much effort but could give her a sense of purpose. She agreed, carefully sweeping the porch and carrying small bundles of firewood. He offered gentle guidance, never criticizing, only encouraging her when she did something well. By evening, the two of them sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the ranch. The sky was painted with shades of orange, pink, and purple, and the air was filled with the soft sounds of nature settling down for the night. Elena leaned back slightly, her body relaxed for the first time in days. You're very kind, she said quietly, almost to herself. Tom looked at her, surprised by the words. Kindness goes a long way, he said softly. Especially when someone needs it the most. There was a long silence, but it was a comfortable one, not filled with fear or tension. For a moment, it felt as though the past had been left behind, at least for now. As night fell, Tom made sure Elena had everything she needed before heading to bed himself. She had a warm blanket, a full stomach, and a sense of safety that she hadn't known in a long time. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing: she was beginning to heal, and that was a start. And in that quiet ranch under the stars, Elena allowed herself a small moment of hope. The fear that had driven her to run so far was still there, but it was no longer consuming her entirely. There was someone to watch over her, someone to help her navigate this new chapter. Breath. And for the first time she felt the faintest glimmer that maybe, just maybe, things could get better.
The next morning was crisp, and the air carried the faint scent of earth and grass.
The ranch was quiet, save for the lowing of cattle and the occasional crow in the distance. Elena had slept better than she had in days, curled under a blanket with her body finally relaxed, frisky. Yet even in the comfort of safety, her mind was restless. She kept glancing at the horizon, imagining shadows in the trees, the sound of footsteps that weren't there. Tom noticed her vigilance as he brought her a cup of warm tea.
"You're awake early," he said softly, setting the cup on the table.
Raish. Sleep well?
Elena nodded, though her eyes were distant, focused on something he couldn't see. I
dreamed about running," she admitted quietly. Tom sat down across from her, listening carefully.
Running is exhausting, he said gently, especially when you've been running for a long time. Breath. He glances around in desperation. You're safe here. No one can hurt you. She nodded again, but there was still tension in her shoulders. Tom understood. The mind held on to fear, even when the body was safe. Sometimes it helps to face what scares us, he said. Not all at once, but slowly, one step at a time.
Elena took a deep breath and whispered, I don't know if I can. That's okay, Tom said. You don't have to decide anything right now.
Breaths. Just stay here. Look around. See that you're still breathing. That's a start. For the rest of the morning, they moved about the ranch in small routines. Tom tended the horses, and Elena helped by bringing fresh water to the stalls and stacking hay neatly. Narration. She was quiet, but she worked carefully, and Tom could see a small change in her posture, a subtle shift from tension to cautious attentiveness. By afternoon, a faint sound caught Tom's attention. It was subtle at first, the crunching of dry grass and the faint creak of branches. Rack! He froze for a moment, scanning the edge of the property. His instincts kicked in immediately. Elena, he said, keeping his voice calm but firm. Stay inside. Lock the door behind you. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe.
Her eyes widened in fear.
Is it him? She whispered, clutching the edges of her shirt. Tom shook his head slightly. Breaths.
I don't know, but we need to be careful.
Breaths. Stay inside. Trust me. He grabbed his old rifle from the corner of the barn, checking it quickly but carefully. His heart raced, not from fear but from the responsibility of protecting someone so fragile, someone who trusted him completely. He moved quietly toward the sound, his boots silent against the dusty ground, and peered through the trees. At first, he saw nothing but the waving grass and the shadows of the afternoon sun. Then, a figure appeared in the distance, moving slowly but deliberately toward the ranch. Tom's heart tightened. There was no mistaking the intent in the figure's movements. Someone searching. Someone determined. He retreated to a position where he could see the house without being seen. Elena was inside, unaware of exactly who was approaching, but she could feel something in the air, a subtle tension that made her chest tighten. She peeked out of the window and saw Tom standing near the edge of the field, his posture alert, his eyes scanning. Her heart raced, but she didn't move. She trusted him completely, and that trust was a lifeline. The figure drew closer, and Tom could now see more clearly. The person was tall and broad-shouldered, moving with purpose. He raised his hand slightly, signaling Elena to stay back.
His mind worked quickly. He didn't want to act rashly, but he couldn't allow anyone to threaten her safety.
Elena whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Please, not here. Please. Tom's hands tightened on the rifle. But then he heard her voice, quiet and steady despite the fear. Don't let it end with blood, she said. For a moment, he froze. Her words pierced him deeply. Burst. She wasn't just afraid. She was pleading for peace, for a solution that didn't involve violence. He realized then that what she needed most wasn't protection through force alone, but the courage to show that danger could be faced without succumbing to it. He lowered the rifle slightly, keeping his body tense but calm.
Stay inside, he called gently.
Trust me. The figure drew closer, now close enough to see the edge of the property fence. Tom stepped forward, deliberately visible, his hands open to show he meant no immediate harm. The figure stopped, hesitant for a moment, sizing him up. Tom's voice remained steady, calm, unwavering.
You don't need to do this. She's safe.
Leave now! The tension in the air was thick, almost tangible.
Elena watched from the window, her heart pounding, her hands pressed against the glass. She felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear for what could happen. Hope that someone had the courage to protect her without causing harm. Then, something remarkable happened. The figure shifted, then slowly retreated, unsure and cautious. Tom kept his posture relaxed but watchful, making sure the retreat continued until the person disappeared from sight entirely. He didn't lower his guard completely until the danger was gone, but he knew the immediate threat had passed. He returned to the house, his body tense but his mind clear. Elena ran to him, her bare feet making soft sounds against the wooden floor.
Is it
Over? She asked, her voice trembling. Tom knelt down, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's over for now. You're safe. She sank against him, relief washing over her in silent tears. She had been running for so long, living in fear, that the mere presence of safety felt almost foreign. Tom held her gently, giving her the space to release the tension she had carried for months, maybe years.
After a while, she pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes. Thank you for not
shooting.
Sometimes courage isn't about force, he said softly. It's about staying calm, being smart, and showing that fear doesn't have to control us.
You taught me that too. For a long moment they sat together in the quiet of the house, the afternoon light fading into the soft glow of evening. The tension of the day slowly lifted, replaced by a fragile sense of trust and connection. As night fell, Tom prepared a simple meal. Elena helped quietly, moving around the kitchen carefully. They ate together, sharing a calm, comfortable silence. The danger of the afternoon had reminded them both how precious safety and trust were. After dinner, Tom suggested they sit on the porch and watch the stars. Elena agreed, and they stepped outside, the cool night air brushing against their faces. The sky was clear, filled with stars that seemed to stretch endlessly above the ranch. You know, Tom said softly, sometimes when you feel afraid, it helps to look at the stars. They remind you that there's something bigger than us out there. Breaths. Something constant, something safe to hold on to.
I never thought about it like that, she admitted. It's
but beautiful. It is. And just like the stars, trust and safety take time. They don't appear all at once. You have to watch, wait, and allow them to grow. For the first time in days, Elena allowed herself a small smile. It was fragile, tentative, but it was there. She felt the weight of fear lift just a little, replaced by a sense that she wasn't alone anymore. That she had someone to rely on, someone who would face danger not with violence, but with courage and care. The night deepened, and the ranch settled into a peaceful quiet. Elena and Tom sat together, the stars above watching silently, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could shine through. Brace. And in that quiet moment a bond formed, one built on trust, courage, and the understanding that sometimes The greatest strength comes from laying down your weapon and choosing compassion instead. The morning after the tension of the previous day was calm. The sun rose slowly over the ranch, casting warm, golden light across the fields. The air smelled of fresh earth and hay, and the soft calls of birds echoed through the quiet landscape. But for the first time in a long while, Elena felt a sense of safety that didn't tremble with fear. She had slept through the night without nightmares, and though her body still bore the marks of past struggles, her mind felt lighter. Tom was already outside when she stepped onto the porch. He was checking the fence lines, making sure everything was secure. When he saw her, he offered a small smile. "Good morning," he said gently. Bene nodded, her bare feet brushing the wooden boards of the porch. "Yes, better than I have in a long time," she admitted softly. "Braze, thank you for last night."
Tom nodded. "You're welcome."
"Remember, it's not just me. You're taking the steps yourself, too. Every moment you let yourself rest, every step you take outside, it's part of healing." She looked out over the fields, her eyes taking in the grazing cattle and the rolling hills. For the first time, she saw beauty instead of danger, possibility instead of fear. The ranch, which had once seemed vast and intimidating, now felt like a sanctuary. They spent the morning on small tasks, routines that brought a sense of normalcy.
Elena helped feed the animals and collect water from the well. Her movements careful, but more confident than the day before. Tom guided her gently, never rushing, always offering reassurance when she seemed uncertain.
As they worked, Elena began to speak in fragments about her past. She didn't go into detail, but she spoke of running, of fear, of the exhaustion of being constantly on guard. Tom listened patiently, never interrupting, never judging. He simply offered a calm presence and quiet encouragement. "You're very strong," he said softly. "Even when you feel broken, you've survived. That strength most people don't have." Elena paused, looking at him. I never thought of it that way," she said quietly. I just kept going because I had no choice." Tom nodded. "That's how survival works. But now you have a choice. You can take your time. You can heal at your own pace. You don't have to face everything alone anymore." By midday, the sun was warm overhead, and the ranch was alive with the sounds of life, the gentle lowing of cattle, the rustling of leaves in the breeze, and the distant crowing of a rooster. Elena and Tom sat in the shade of a large oak tree, taking a break from chores. I'm scared sometimes," Elena admitted quietly. "Even here, even now. I keep thinking, what if he comes back?" Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Fear is natural," he said.
But remember yesterday, you saw that courage isn't always about fighting.
Sometimes it's about staying calm, being smart, and trusting the people who care about you. You're not alone, and we'll make sure you're safe." Elena nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Thank you," she whispered. I think I can start trusting again." The afternoon passed slowly but peacefully. Tom suggested they walk along the edge of the property, letting Elena explore while he kept a watchful eye. The fields stretched out before them, dotted with wildflowers and small streams. Elena's bare feet brushed the soft grass, and she moved more confidently than before, her eyes taking in every detail with a mix of curiosity and wonder.
At one point, she paused by a small pond, crouching down to watch the water ripple. "It's
so calm here," she said softly. "It feels safe." Tom smiled. "Peaceful, because it's cared for, just like people. When someone cares for you, when they make sure you're safe, it's easier to feel peace too. Elena nodded, the words settling in her mind. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that she could have a life that wasn't defined by fear. The past was still there, but it no longer controlled every thought, every step. As evening approached, Tom and Elena returned to the ranch house. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, and the soft glow of the setting sun made everything feel gentle and calm. They prepared a simple meal together, sharing small stories and laughter. Elena's laughter was quiet at first, tentative, but it grew more confident as the evening progressed. After dinner, Tom suggested they sit on the porch and watch the stars. Elena agreed, wrapping herself in a blanket he had given her. The sky was clear, filled with countless points of light. She felt a sense of wonder she hadn't felt in years, a feeling of connection to something larger than herself. "You know," Tom said softly, "the stars remind me that even in the darkest night there's always something constant, something to hold on to. You can think of trust the same way. Narration. It grows slowly, but it's always there if you nurture it."
Elena looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the starlight.
I think I understand now, she said quietly. Breaths. I've been so afraid for so long I forgot that peace could exist. Tom nodded. It can exist, and you deserve it. You're allowed to feel safe. You're allowed to heal. Over the next few days, Elena's confidence grew. She helped Tom with larger chores around the ranch, learning to care for the animals and the land. Her movements were no longer hesitant. She walked with purpose, her head held higher. The bruises on her body were still there, but her spirit was stronger, and that strength showed in every small action she took. She also began to talk more about her dreams and hopes, the things she had long buried under fear. She spoke of wanting to learn, to work with animals, to create a life that was her own. Tom listened patiently, offering encouragement and guidance whenever she asked. One afternoon as they worked in the barn, Tom noticed Elena pause and look at the horizon. "What is it?" he asked gently. Breath. I think I'm ready, she said quietly. Ready to start over. To really live again, not just survive. Tom smiled. That's wonderful. Breath. And remember, starting over doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means using what you've learned to build something better. Elena nodded, a small tear glistening in her eye.
I feel stronger, she whispered.
Because I'm not alone. Days turned into weeks, and Elena's recovery continued. She grew more confident in her steps, more trusting of the world around her. She laughed more freely, spoke more openly, and began to truly enjoy the simple pleasures of life on the ranch. The feel of soft hay under her hands, the gentle nuzzle of a horse, the warmth of the sun on her face. One evening, as the sun set, she stood barefoot in the field, watching the colors change in the sky. Tom approached quietly, standing beside her. You've come a long way, he said softly. Elena smiled, a bright, genuine smile that reached her eyes. Grasp. I have, and I couldn't have done it without you. You did it yourself. I just helped you see that it was possible. The courage was always inside you. They stood together in silence for a while, the soft breeze carrying the scent of the fields and the quiet sounds of life settling in for the night. Elena felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years, a feeling that the world was no longer a place of constant fear. She was free, not just from danger, but from the chains of doubt and worry that had followed her for so long. As the stars began to appear in the sky, she whispered softly to herself, I'm ready for the future. I'm ready to live. And in that moment, on the quiet ranch under the vast star-filled sky, Elena truly began a new chapter of her life. She had survived, she had healed, and she had found hope. And with every step she took barefoot on the soft earth, she moved closer to the life she had always dreamed of, a life filled with trust, courage, and the promise of tomorrow. Breaths. The ranch, once a place of refuge, had become a home. And for Elena, home was no longer just a place to hide. France. It was a place to grow, to heal, and to thrive. In the gentle quiet of the night, Tom watched her from the porch, a small smile on his face. She had faced her fears, taken the first steps toward healing, and embraced the possibility of hope. And that, he knew, was the greatest gift anyone could receive. Narration.
Elena looked out over the fields one last time before heading inside, feeling the earth beneath her feet and the sky above her. She knew that life would not always be easy, but she also knew that she was no longer alone.
She had strength, courage, and someone who believed in her. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt ready to truly live.